I definitely kind of avoided telling people that I was nervous.
Sometimes it's a bigger aspect of my life than my marriage because it's with me all the time.
Having a child with anything that's not normal is so isolating.
I've worked with patients that have had to leave their jobs or leave school. I think one of the things about, depression and anxiety is that people don't talk about it much.
I mean, I would avoid going to camp, kind of being away from home for long periods of time. I would avoid, I was kind of fixated on storms.
She had been vomiting a lot over anything. If the tooth fairy was coming, eating in a loud restaurant, seeing people in hospitals and pictures on TV, anything you could think of, she would get upset about.
I was, a skinny Asian kid with thick glasses, and if I would feel overwhelmed, I definitely would retreat and, take time just to be by myself.
I would start to lose focus on what I was supposed to be doing, and I would only be darting around looking at the other people, thinking that they were going to be looking at me. Either it was because I felt like I was sweating too much, if I felt like I didn't look like I wanted to that day, and I would say that started happening in almost any place that was public.
The hallmark of anxiety is that a person will overestimate the risk of something bad happening and also underestimate their ability to cope with it.
So I would say the lowest point was there was a 2-month span where everything she did was crippling. It's bad enough with the tears and the fear, but then the vomit, it was just all consuming, and I felt like every time I turned around, I was sweating and freaking out about how I was going to get her to do something.
I convinced myself that there was something wrong with me, I couldn't sleep, and kind of convinced myself that I was gonna die from this lack of sleep.
In terms of abusing some of the medications that I was actually prescribed myself, an obvious one for someone with anxiety is Xanax. If it was a 30-day supply, something like that, I would find myself running out in half or less than half the time.
I was in Silicon Valley when the first .com boom. And then I was also there for the bust. And I had all these really high status jobs, and then I started getting laid off. I'd put so much into my identity and my self-worth, and really I probably, just as a coping skill of doing really well.
I felt like I fell apart. I couldn't do life, I was just really struggling. I was at home, just all I could do was thinking about my anxiety, and I felt sick, and I started to develop panic attacks when I would try and sleep.
And so I think it was very easy for me to start feeling hopeless, or like I was never going to get myself out of the house again, because why would I? Because it's always a bad situation when I leave, or I always feel worse when I leave.
It's a really depressing way to feel, and people don't often engage in their life the way they want to and don't move towards their values the way that they want to. And so depression is another really common concern with untreated anxiety.
And I ended up attempting suicide about 12 years ago. I thought that, I wasn't contributing, and that the world would be better off.
And so that's when we knew it was time to go get help.
I think at first I was going to just regular, urgent care doctor, or just some random person. A year after that is when I started seeing, I think, a therapist and working through kind of some of the thoughts and trying to kind of restructure some of my thinking.
And in a way, I got a little angry because I was like, these are really simple skills. Why am I learning these in my 30s?
When the psychiatrist told me that she had severe anxiety, I remember feeling like I can't put my 5-year-old on medicine, because just instinctively there seemed something wrong with that. Yet I had a really well-respected psychiatrist who's dealt with this in the field for very long telling me, this is what you need to do to stop. We've got to stop the vomiting.
Only relying on medication and not working through is probably not the healthiest thing. It took repeated talking to my parents, and I think they were still probably apprehensive at first when they realized that the day that I I took a pill in the morning and I didn't act like a wildly different person, that it was going to be like okay to try these things out.
I would say to start by going online and looking up some resources to learn a little bit about anxiety treatment. And I would also say make an appointment with a therapist, or if you don't feel ready for that, make an appointment with your primary care physician and talk to them about what you're experiencing, and just take small steps towards offering yourself the help that could really change your life.
It's just like if you thought your kid had a strep throat or an ear infection, you kind of know the signs. We call right away to our pediatrician. We say, I want to get them in to get their ears checked or get their throat checked. But we don't do that with mental health. And it boggles my mind. But even though I did it, I still was that way. I still hesitated. And I just think people need to be open about it and go tackle it head on.
I definitely think that my parents were scared, but realized that it wasn't something that they could immediately fix from just here, let's talk to our son. If there weren't some sacrifices made on my parents' side, then I wouldn't be the functioning, happy adult that I am today.
So many people struggle with anxiety. You're not alone in this. 1 out of 8 kids struggle with an anxiety disorder, and 18% of adults struggle with an anxiety disorder.
If we can just overcome that initial fear and that initial feeling of anxiety and discomfort, we're going to have much greater chances of being happy, because to be happy, we have to push ourselves and we have to grow.
I'm definitely more open with it now, and I've just realized that I'm less alone than I thought I was.
If I appear to be confident in this interview or okay with where I'm at in life, just remember that 1, this is not how I always am, and 2, this is still something that I struggle with on a very regular and very deep basis. But I think the outcome of me talking about it is more important than the anxiety that I'm feeling right now.
We still have really hard days. We go through it weekly, but she's come so far. She dances, she sings. We struggle every time she does that. But when I really sit back and think about what she's had to accomplish, I'm really proud of her.
I've met some really awesome people, so that's helped a lot. And I've just realized that I'm resilient, more resilient than I thought I was.